In Samuel chapter 3, 2 Samuel chapter 3 is where we find ourselves. We're looking at David taking over the kingdom. He's only the king over one tribe. Soon he'll be the king over all 12 tribes of Israel, but not before Avner, the commander, his enemy, his current enemy, Avner, not until Avner switches allegiance to David from Saul to David, not until that happens will David take the throne of Israel. That's where we are here. A quick recap from last week. Avner, the army commander who served under King Saul, now make no mistake, this is David's enemy. He's David's brother. He's a fellow Jew. But at the moment, historically, Avner used to fight for Saul's army, and he is against David. But Avner, the army commander who served under King Saul, has been accused by King Ishbosheth of trying to usurp authority by taking one of Saul's concubines as his own. Can't tell the story again, but Ishbosheth, remember, is Saul's son. He's taken command of the 11 tribes, the northern tribes of Israel, 11 of them. David only has control over one, and Ishbosheth tells Avner, you are trying to usurp the authority of the crown of my father by going in and laying with one of his concubines. We talked about that last week. Avner, in his anger, one statement is levied against the guy, one accusation, and it changes everything in the history of King David and Israel. This one statement pivoted the reign in Israel, that you have slept with my father's concubine, you're trying to usurp authority. One statement changed Israel's history. Avner, in his anger, immediately shifts allegiance from King Ishbosheth to King David. We saw that last week. We're in the throes of seeing that right now. This is what it said in 2 Samuel 3, verse 9 and 10. This is Avner's promise to Ishbosheth. You've gone too far. I've propped you up for 2 years. You'd have no authority if not for me and the army that I lead. No more. You've offended me, brother, and I'm not coming back from this. He says, may God so do so to Avner. Now this is Avner speaking. I don't know why all these people in the Bible speak to themselves in the third person. That'd be like me saying, well, Rick says. That's what he's saying. May God do so to Avner, and more also, if as Yahweh has sworn to David. I know that this was the promise God made to David. I know that David has been anointed king. And if I don't accomplish this for him, and this is what his promise to Ishbosheth the king is, I will transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul, your house, Ishbosheth. I'm going to take the power from you. You know what? You're accusing me of taking the power from you by sleeping with my ex-king's concubine. You're accusing me of doing it, so I'll do it. You crossed a line with me, son. You're accusing me of something I didn't do, and to show you how angry I am, I'm going to do it now. Oh. I'll transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul, and I'll establish the throne of David over Israel and over Judah from Dan even to Beersheba. The entirety from the north to the south, I am stripping authority from you, Ishbosheth. You don't think I can do it? Watch me. I've got command over the army. I'm taking your power because you think I'm doing it anyway. You've accused me of it, and I will see to it personally that David reign over the 12 tribes of Israel. So David demands, after David hears of this, David demands that his first wife, Michal, the daughter of the deceased King Saul, be taken from her husband and restored to David. This is a diplomatic move. This is a power move. This is David showing that if I can get Saul's daughter back in my house, as my wife, then some of the power of Saul, some of the people of Saul will say, okay, he's trying to make truce. He's trying to make amends. He's taken Saul's own daughter to be his wife again. So David demands that his first wife, Michal, be taken from her husband and restored to him as a wife. Avner leaves David in peace. We'll see that today again. Avner, the commander who was once his enemy, comes to David and says, I'm going to transfer all the authority of Ishbosheth. I have the power. I have the army. I can do this. I'm going to hand it to you, David. And remember, I did this whenever you come into your kingdom, right? Maybe I'll have a high role in your administration. He's applying for a job here at the same time. He's in anger against Ishbosheth. So Avner leaves David in peace to go speak to the leaders of the 11 northern tribes about making David their king. And that's where we find out, or where we find ourselves. Avner, the commander, has gone out on a campaign trail. He's going to the 11 tribes of the north to talk to the leaders of the tribes to say David should be the rightful king of Israel. I want to transfer authority from Ishbosheth, Saul's son, to David, a man of the tribe of Judah. He's on the campaign trail. In verse 17, here's where we pick up. Avner had consultation with the elders of Israel. These are the 11 tribes. He's on his campaign trail for David. And he has consultation with the elders of Israel. And he said, in times past, you were seeking for David to be king over you. Now, this is an interesting statement, isn't it? It seems here that Avner and Ishbosheth had taken control of the northern tribes by force. He's telling them, in the last 7.5 years, I've heard from you people that you want David to be king over you. He says it. In times past, you, 11 tribal leaders, were seeking for David to be your king. Remember, it took 7.5 years after Saul died for David to get control of all of Israel, all 12 tribes. This thing's been going on for quite a while, and it seems that this division in Israel was fueled by Avner, the commander of the army. If God doesn't get Avner on David's side, David doesn't become the king of Israel. And how does he do it? One statement from Ishbosheth, you're trying to steal the kingdom from me. Verse 18, Avner continues speaking to the elders of Israel. You want David to be king? In verse 18, he says, then do it. Now is the time, do it. For Yahweh has spoken of David. Avner seems to know the promise that God told David that he would be king. He says, for Yahweh has spoken of David, saying, by the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel from the hand of the Philistines and from the hand of all their enemies. So this crafty general, this Avner, this powerful man in Israel, knew all along for 7.5 years that the new king was rightfully David. But for 7.5 years, he has seen to it that David didn't take control. Crafty. Avner, verse 19, also spoke in the hearing of Benjamin. Now this is interesting. In verse 17, he goes out to all the elders of Israel, all the 11 tribes, but to the tribe of Benjamin he pays a special visit. Now, why would he do that? What's special? What's distinct about the tribe of Benjamin? Why would Avner go to the tribe of Benjamin here with special attention? Because King Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin. And if you want Saul's family to step aside and allow David and the Judahites, the tribe of Judah, to take power, you're going to have to go through the tribe of Benjamin. You're going to have to get their blessing. It was their man Saul who was king of Israel for 40 years. It's going to take a little extra talking. So in verse 18, he also spoke in the hearing of Benjamin. Imagine their surprise when they hear this man Avner, who for 7.5 years, even though some of the people of Israel wanted David to be their king for 7.5 years, they've all heard Avner said, no, 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 the house of Saul shall reign. Eventually Ishbosheth will reign as king in Saul's place. Imagine their unbelievable thought when Avner comes and says, you know what? It's time for David. What happened that made you flip this switch? I can't imagine their confusion at least their surprise when their commander came and said, David's turn. In addition, not only did he go to the house of Benjamin, it says Avner went to speak in the hearing of David in Hebron, not to David directly, but to the people in Hebron who clearly could take the message to David who was there. And what did he preach? What was he speaking to them? All that seemed good to Israel and to the whole house of Benjamin. Let's make David our king. All 12 tribes united under David. It's been 7.5 years we've been a divided kingdom. 7.5 years we've been at war with our brothers. Let's end this nonsense and let David be our king. Verse 20 says, Then Avner and 20 men with him came to David. So they spoke to the 11 tribes, then they spoke to the tribe of Benjamin, then they went into Hebron and spoke in the area of Hebron, and now they've gone directly to David with their message. Avner and 20 men with him came to David at Hebron, and David made a feast for Avner and the men who were with him. As if to say, you know what, friend, brother, fellow tribesman, all's well that ends well. I've patiently waited for 7.5 years for God to make me king of Israel. I didn't go to war. David did not lift up arms against Saul's men. He waited for God. And here finally, at last, a peaceful transfer of power seems to be in order. Verse 21 says, Avner said to David, let me arise and go and gather. I've already spoken to them. We're in agreement, but let me gather all Israel to my lord the king, that they may make a covenant with you. Let them enter into contract with you to follow you as their king, to be obedient with you, and that you may be king over all that your soul desires. What's David's desire? Not only to be king over Judah, but to be king over all 12 tribes of Israel, the tribes of his fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He wants to be the king of Israel. That's what he was anointed to be. So David sent Avner away, and Avner went in peace. Now this is very important. They have become allies again. They're brothers. They've buried the hatchet. No hard feelings. 7.5 years of warfare. You were on Ishbosheth's side. You were on the house of Saul's side. I understand you've made a flip. I don't care why. I want peace in Israel. And so we are at peace. And David and Avner part ways on this day peacefully. David's in agreement with what Avner has said. Go get the tribes of Israel. Bring them to me. I want to reign over them. That's what I was anointed to do. And Avner says, I'm going to go get them. So he's on a peaceful mission from the king. But that doesn't last for long. In verse 22, we hear about David's army commander. Remember his name? Yoav. Remember his relationship to David? Yoav is David's nephew. He's David's sister Tzruiah, hard name to say. Tzruiah. Yeah, it's a hard name to say. Tzruiah. David has gone, or David has his sister Tzruiah's 3 sons as his main army commanders. One of them was killed by Avner in a battle. But Yoav and Avishai, the 2 that are alive, hear that their enemy commander, Avner, has not only been near them in Hebron, but he has had personal counsel with our King David. Our uncle David was in the presence of the enemy general. And they don't like it. The enemy general who killed our brother. Let's not forget. Behold, it says in verse 22, and behold, the servants of David and Yoav, his commander, came from a raid, and they brought much spoil with them. But Avner, the opposite army commander, was not with David in Hebron, for David had sent him away. And here you have it again, and he had gone in peace. It's interesting in the Bible, this author goes to great lengths to let us know that David, whatever happens to Avner, and we're about to see it, it wasn't David's doing. When David and Avner last saw each other, there was peace between the brothers, peace between the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin. There was a united Israel. It just had to be done. Avner was going out to gather the other tribes to David in Hebron so they could crown David king. There was peace, there was alliance, there was covenant, there was agreement. And nephew Yoav says, "This is nonsense, you foolish Uncle David." Hot-headed. But the author lets us know, and we'll see it again in the next verse, peace. In verse 23, when Joab and all the army that was with him arrived in Hebron, where David was, they told Joab. Now make no mistake, you know who these parties are. Joab is the commander of David's army. Avner is the commander of Saul's army, Saul's son Ishbosheth, but the house of Saul. These are enemy combatants. This is Ulysses S. Grant and Robert E. Lee. And there's no way these two men are going to get along sitting at a table shaking hands, drinking iced tea in Virginia. Not going to happen. That's who these two players are. Joab is on David's side. Avner is on the house of Saul's side, and Joab says there is no way on earth that this man came here with peace in his mind. No way. We are warriors, not diplomats. This is foolishness. So Joab and all the army that was with him arrived. They told Joab, they said, Avner, the son of Ner, came to the king. He not only came to Hebron, he sat with the king and they talked. And the king has sent Avner away, and here we have it again. He has gone in peace. Your rival Joab came here. He spoke to your king, your uncle David. David sent him away in peace, thinking that Avner is going to go gather all the tribes to him to make David king over all of Israel, which is the truth. That's exactly what Avner was going to do. So we have General Joab here, David's nephew, comes to King David in anger. It must have been a little bit easier because he was his uncle. They were family after all. He's a very strong man, this Joab, make no mistake, and David is still weak. He's a 30-year-old king. He's only been king for 7.5 years over one tribe in all Israel. He's weak in the sense of he's not well versed yet. His diplomacy isn't great. His tactics aren't great. He still has a lot to learn, and he is unable to control the strength of his nephew Joab. He is overpowered by this man, his nephew. Simply overpowered by him. Joab came to David. Imagine this, the commander coming to David, and he said to him, I'll add in the word Uncle Dave. Let's not forget the relationship here. What have you done? Behold, Avner came to you. Why then have you sent him away and he's already gone? You had the enemy in your gate. Why is there not a spear through his heart here in your chamber? You know Avner, the son of Ner, that he came to deceive you and to learn of your going out and your coming in. He came inside your palace. He played you like a mule. Here you are thinking you're having a diplomatic conversation with this guy. He saw your every move. He played you like a fool, Uncle David. Don't you know who this man is? To find out, he came here to find out all that you are doing. What is Avner or Joab saying to Uncle David? How could you have been so foolish? So naive. How could he have manipulated you and you didn't even know it was happening? Isn't it interesting? I find it so interesting that the very same event The truth of the event is what David heard, that Avner has now become his ally and has spoken to the tribes of Israel, and Avner has flipped the switch and will make David king of Israel. That is his intention. That's the truth. And he's come to David to offer David this, and David accepted and sent him away in peace. That's the truth of the event. But through the eyes of another man, the exact same event is seen as treachery and all these other things. The same facts are interpreted so entirely different by people. Which leads me again to what happened yesterday. We're going to see, watching the news, the very same set of facts that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and all of his board, all of his council, all of his cabinet, all of his advisors, the NSA, the CIA, all of his advisors, the very same facts that caused him to go to the aid of Israel will be seen by others as treachery and espionage and traitorism and grounds for dismissal, grounds for impeachment as president. That woman in New York, Ocasio-Cortez, has also already called this morning for Donald Trump's impeachment. The very same exact set of facts are seen entirely differently by two different groups of people. It's exactly what's going on here. Make no mistake, what's about to happen, what you're going to be barraged with, the right's going to try to keep you on Trump's side, the left is going to try desperately to demonize him, and everything he's done is unconstitutional and wrong and over a kingship. He wants to be king. You've heard it all. It's coming really hardcore. We've only opened that door. It was happening here. Yoav hears the fact of Avner and the truce and the alliance and the peace, and says, there's no way the man who killed my brother came here with peace on his heart. No way. He's wrong. And he'll pay for it eventually with his life. Yoav will, David's commander. Let's keep going here. We'll see in verse 26 that Yoav doesn't bow down to the wishes of the king, his uncle. Yoav is a very powerful military man. He's got the army at his disposal, at least the army of Judah. He will take matters into his own hands. He doesn't matter that David and the people say Avner went away in peace to gather the nation to Israel, or to the nation of Israel to David. He doesn't care about those facts. He's got his own set of facts, and this is what he's working on. And he's dead wrong. But he doesn't care. It's the way he's interpreted the situation. So without any authorization, without any permission from his uncle, the king of Judah, Yoav goes out and takes care of things his own way. Verse 26, when Yoav came out from David, he's been in the presence of his uncle David. He's upset. He's very angry. He thinks David's been a manipulated fool. And he leaves there. He sent messengers after Avner. Bring him back to me. I know he went out. I want him back. So he sent messengers after Avner, and they brought him back from the well of Sirah. So he'd gone as far as this well, doesn't matter where it is. But look what it says again. The author trying to protect David's innocence. He says, Avner left in peace. Then he says it again, Avner left in peace. Then he says it again, Avner left in peace. And now he says, David did not know it. This author is going out of his way to prove that David is innocent in what's about to happen with Avner. David didn't know that Yoav in his anger called Avner back to Hebron. Verse 27, so when Avner returned to Hebron, in the presence of his enemy, here you have face to face, Grant and Lee. What's going to happen? Probably the same thing that would have happened in 1864, 63 if Grant and Lee would have met. Avner returned to Hebron and Yoav took him aside. Now imagine this, arm in arm, come here, I need to talk to you. Well, this isn't going to end well, is it? I know you killed my brother, but let's bury the hatchet. Yoav took Avner aside, which brings up this question, why in the world would Avner have trusted Yoav? Why in the world when he says, come here? I'd have said, I'll stay right here. You have something to say it from a distance. Why in the world is Avner right beside his enemy commander all of a sudden? Unless he thought, perhaps, that his alliance with David, the king, would protect him. Certainly, Yoav isn't going to do something and usurp the authority and permissions of the king. Certainly, I will be protected by my alliance with King David. He didn't know the man Yoav. He underestimated this man and what he would do. So Yoav took him aside into the middle of the gate to speak with him privately. And there he struck him in the belly so that he died. Now, are we in the midst of war? Are we in the midst of war in this verse? Is a battle taking place? Are the army generals at war? Is it okay to kill one another because we are in the throes of actual warfare on a battlefield right now? Or has a truce been made between David and the 11 nations, the 11 tribes? A truce has been made. We're not at war. So you don't call this legitimate killing of one warrior killing another enemy warrior. You call this instead, what? Murder. He struck him in the belly so that he died on account of the blood of Asahel, his brother. Remember the story without having to tell it again. Asahel was fleet-footed like a gazelle, the Bible says, and in a previous battle, Avner was getting away on his chariot. Asahel is running behind him. Avner looks back and said, Asahel, is that you? And he says, yes, it is. He says, turn aside. I know you have bloodthirst. Kill one of my soldiers. You cannot kill me. Turn aside from chasing me. This won't end well. And he wouldn't do it. A second time, Avner tells Asahel, how am I going to face your brother Yoav if I take your life? Turn aside to one of my lesser men. Kill the soldiers that are around you. Don't keep coming after me. This isn't going to end well. I will kill you. I'm a hardened warrior. You're a kid. And he wouldn't stop. So Avner, in a battle, on a battlefield, killed Asahel, Yoav, and Abishai's brother. Legitimate battlefront, battlefield killing. He's mad about it. Holds a grudge. Doesn't understand that the king has signed a peace treaty with Avner and the 11 tribes. So he takes matters into his own hands and he strikes Avner in the belly so that he died on account of the blood of Asahel, his brother. In verse 28, listen again to the author, ultimately God the Holy Spirit, letting Israel know David is innocent of this murder. He had nothing to do with it. Verse 28, afterward, when David heard it, that Yoav had killed Avner, who he had sent away with the protections of the king of Judah, he sent him away in peace. David finds out that his own commander had murdered this man who he had granted peace to. When David heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are innocent before the Lord forever of the blood of Avner, the son of Ner. I had nothing to do with it. And then he utters a curse on his nephew. It's like a soap opera, isn't it? God can only Israel can come up with a drama like this. Verse 29, David says of his nephew Yoav, may it fall on the head of Yoav and on all his father's house, this curse, and may there not fall from the house of Yoav one who has a discharge. Is that fall or fail? That is fail. and may there not fail. So this is the curse. May every man who comes out of the house of Joab, every son, grandson, great-grandson, forever, may they all be cursed. May there not fail from the house of Joab even a single one who doesn't have a discharge, one who is a leper. He's calling all these curses on his nephew's family for murdering this man Avned, who he had made an alliance with. Or who takes hold of a distaff. There's some interesting thoughts about what that may mean, but it could mean that they be effeminate. A distaff being like a what do you call the wheel? Where they turn the wool into a what? A loom. Yeah, this could be interpreted as a loom. So he's saying, may the men of Joab only take women's work. That's definitely a possibility here in the interpretation. Or who falls by the sword, or who bakes bread, or who lacks bread. So David utters this horrible curse against his nephew Joab for being a murderer, for taking an innocent man who has come at the command of Yahweh to establish my anointed kingdom of Israel forever, and you killed him. But it's interesting that David, the question has to be asked, if a murder has taken place in David's kingdom, why didn't David kill Joab? Why didn't David take Joab and have him executed? He has just committed a murder. Not only that, he committed a murder in Hebron. Remember there were cities in Israel called the cities of refuge, where the manslayer was to go and flee for his life. And the avenger of the family, the blood avenger, could not kill him while he was in the city of refuge. There was no killing to take place in Hebron. Even if the death of his brother would have been wrong in Hebron, the city of refuge, then Avned would have been safe. So there are a lot of things that Joab does wrong here against the Mosaic law. He kills someone in a city of refuge. So why doesn't David, having all these things against Joab, why doesn't he call for his immediate execution? What's the answer? He's my nephew. I know how he can be. He's my nephew. It's interesting because we'll see in David's life, when it comes to his own family members, Absalom, his son who tries to usurp the throne, instead of fighting Absalom, what do we see David do immediately? Pack up and leave Jerusalem. He should have crushed him, but he didn't. Amnon, later, David is on his deathbed. David has promised that Solomon would reign after him, and his son Amnon comes along, declares himself to be the king of Israel. If not for Bathsheba and Nathan, the prophet Nathan, and Solomon going into David, Solomon would not have been the king, because Amnon tried to what's the word? Whatever it is, he declared himself king of Israel. What did David do to punish him? Nothing. He mourned Amnon after he was killed by Absalom later. So you got problems in David's ability to discipline and punish his own family members. Anybody have that problem? David can't be a heavy when it comes to the wrongs that his own family does. He just doesn't have it in him to do it. Verse 30 says, so Joab and Abishai, his brother. So remember, there were three brothers, Joab, Abishai, and the other one, Asahel. Asahel was killed by Avned, and so the two living brothers conspired apparently here, even though it was Joab that did the killing, they conspired to do it. Joab and Abishai, his brother, killed Avned because he had put their brother Asahel to death in the battle of Gibeon. It tells you right there that was a valid and proper death. It was in the battle. It was on a battlefield. They were fighting. It was a proper wartime death. What we see here is a murder, Yoav killing Avner. But, as we close, remember this, King David sent Avner away in peace. There should have been no problems. They were not in a state of warfare. David's protection of Avner was ignored by his nephews Joab and his nephew Abishai. They ignored David's protection of Avner, who was sent away in peace, we saw 3 times. And they murdered this man, Avner, a better man than them. And they did it in a city of refuge. They have a big problem here. One verse and we close just to read it. Then David said to Joab, how's David going to respond to this murder? David said to Joab and to all the people who were with him, tear your clothes and gird on sackcloth and lament before Avner. And King David walked behind the bier. This thing. It's a cemetery item for the carrying of a body, a deceased body in a coffin. And this is what David walked behind very personally, took the death of Avner. One more interesting fact before we close, you can circle it in verse 31. It's the first time in all of the Bible that David is called King David. And all the other times, David the son of Jesse, David this, David that, David the king of Judah. But King David, Melech David, first time right here in all of the Scripture, David is called the King. King David. We'll pick up right there next time we get together next week. Let's close in prayer.